My man Richard wins the award for making me laugh the hardest before the show even begins. Regie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This show that you are watching right now is Comics Today, a show that we do on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to celebrate the best day of the week, that being New Comic Book Day. And during this show, what we like to do is to have a guest or two come on the show to help me to make sense of something that is happening in the world of comics. And we are going to have two guests on the show tonight. One of them, I can tell you for a fact, has been very influential in me actually starting a YouTube channel. There have been a lot of people that have been guessing over the course of this week as to who that guest is. You're all wrong. Every single person that made a guess is incorrect. We are going to introduce that guest here in a hot moment, but I do want to acknowledge my man Richard, who dropped a super chat on me before the show even began. I was in here trying to set the camera up, and he drops a super chat for a couple of bucks here, and he makes a comment around how the fact that bubble wrap is not cheap, and he received his fair share in a recent box from me. Brother, I like to use bubble wrap. I want to bundle up whatever it is that you have purchased or won from me in a blanket of love known as bubble wrap. And I want to ease it on down the road to your house so that it shows up in one piece. I don't want anybody to ever say that Regie packaged something up and it was trash. My first guest has had a recent bad experience with some mail, and I saw a post on Instagram earlier today from Jim Mint, who also had an issue with some mail, a really expensive book that was sent in a manila padded envelope. I'm talking $6,500. That is a lot of money. No one will ever say that about something that I send because I put it in that blanket of love. So I definitely appreciate it, Richard. I will tell you guys that I did not make it to my LCS today to pick up any comics. I did, however, hit several comic shops and an antique shop. Yes, I was on the hunt again, and you will see the video, the footage that I shot probably in 2 weeks or so with the current backlog that I have. Because I did not pick up any books today that I want to show you in this video, I am instead going to talk very, very briefly about a stack of books that are sitting on the desk in front of me. You guys know that I've been talking a little bit about these lists that have been coming out of like the greatest Marvel stories, the greatest DC stories, the greatest comic stories of all time, right? And so I've been inspired by these various lists to actually go read some of these comics because some of them I am not familiar with these story arcs at all. So if someone is saying this is the greatest story arc of all time or the greatest story period, then it must be good. And so I'm like, hey, let's go read some of this stuff. And I don't know where Flash Fan is, but brother, this video is for you, my friend. Every single subscriber gets one video a year. Flash Fan, this one is yours. I started reading this story right here. I don't even know what the name of the story is, but it is Flash issue number 73. And this is basically where Flash comes back. Flash has died. Flash actually comes back from the dead. And, Barry confronts all of the different Flashes from the different generations before. And there is just this wonderful face-off of all of these Flash. And I'll tell you, I don't want to give away what the whole premise of this book actually is, but I will tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was able to pull the entire story arc from the 100K collection. I sat and I read it, and I honestly enjoyed it. I really did. I think I'm one of those people, like there's certain characters I want to read and I want to like, and Flash is one of those characters. And I was again pleasantly surprised at how good this story was. It is actually, in my opinion, stood up over the test of time, and I enjoyed it. I will, however, say that I don't know if this is one of the best DC stories of all time, because that was essentially the list that this thing was on, but it was good. It was good. I will tell you that. So I wanted to share that with you. And I am in a second, I see a few people putting their stuff up. I am going to go to the chat here in a hot second. And if you went to an LCS today and you picked up some comics, I want to know what books you picked up. If you read something that was really good that we should maybe put on the top of our stack, I want to know that as well, because again, part of why we do this show is to spread the love, spread the love of comics, and the fact that comics are a lot more than just investment. They are also sources of entertainment that can be opened up and read and also enjoyed. So Philtastic says, didn't buy bubble wrap, buy something from Regie, and then you'll get a comic and bubble. Hey, brother, I'm gonna tell you, no one is going to complain ever about me. I'm telling you, I am serious about that. Supreme Love, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Scrolling through. Bubble Love, scrolling through. What is this? Doug says, I grabbed a Dog Days #1 and some back issues of The Good Asian. I have not read The Good Asian, but I've heard a lot of wonderful things about that story, or about that title, I should say. So Eternal Thunder, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. He is running down the list of the books that he picked up, including Timeless, Dark Reign, Moon Knight, Death of Doctor Strange, and he also picked up a cool variant as well. So good to see you, ET. Thank you for rolling in and sharing your list with me as I try to stall here to enter my proper password to unlock this other computer. Scrolling through. Let me see. One of my Grails is sitting on the wall behind you. Been after an X-Men 50 for a long time. Brother, I'm gonna tell you right now, I can do a search and I can find you 50 X-Men 50s right now. I can tell you for a fact. That one I actually picked up. I think I picked that one up from someone that was a subscriber a couple of years ago. Mark says he picked up King Conan, Human Target, Moon Knight, Eat the Rich. There you go. Scrolling through some of the comments here again, looking for the books that you may have picked up today at the shop. Vox says Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run is one of the best. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I kind of want to read some Swamp Thing, and this is kind of maybe a Tina influence. I know he started, Alan Moore did Swamp Thing maybe around issue 21, 22, something like that. You guys know some of these numbers better than I. But I actually started reading issue #1. I started at issue #1. It was a different writer, and it's actually, even that is well written, and I am enjoying it. I think I am mostly through issue #1. And it is not bad. And if it gets better, if Alan Moore is better than this guy, then I am definitely in for a treat. No doubt about it. Scrolling up, Richard is asking a question of Doug, which I'm pretty sure Doug has probably already answered because I am behind on the comments here. He's saying, does Good Asian live up to the hype in your opinion? Brother, be careful what you ask Doug, because he will write a wonderful blog post and then make you wait like 2 weeks before you can read it. So be careful. Be careful what you ask for. Supreme Love says he pre-ordered Captain Carter issue #1. Scrolling through some of the comments here, Doug says reading Red Mother. Ooh, you cannot go wrong. You cannot go wrong with that. Same thing with Geiger. Geiger is fantastic. Scrolling through, a couple of more people here picked up Human Target. Scrolling through, a lot of people picking up. Chuck, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. From Heroes to Icon, talented artist. It's good to see you, brother. Always, once, and future, he says. What is this? Matt Woods is commenting on my love of the bubble wrap. He says, I have to admit that I've repackaged Reggie's bubble wrap, Sydney. Hey, whatever works, brother. I always say that I recycle because I love Mother Earth. So I will repurpose and repackage some stuff in a heartbeat. So bubble wrap, my wife's love language is inventory. I say that all the time, right? Like, you will never run out of anything in my house. And think about this, as much bubble wrap as I use, I don't think that I've ever run out. That, people, is how much my wife actually loves me. Scrolling through the comments here, my man Just Pele, he says, just reading says, I'm reading the Doctor Strange Omnibus Connection heavy stuff. Just Pele dropped some knowledge on me, man. He does a lot of Instagram. He does a lot of Twitter stuff. He put up a post recently about bronze through modern age comics. I think it's like the top 500 or so comics decreasing in value, which I think is a good thing. The Twitter does not give him enough space to really fully articulate his thoughts. So he thankfully sent me an email with some additional detail, and I am very thankful for that email because again, Just Pele I think has his finger on the pulse of some stuff, so I definitely appreciate that. Buff Muffin says, Regie, I'm going to need you to spell that with one G. Just one. How do I get a copy of the Wizard cover? So Comic Tom has picked up the guide to smart comic collecting, and all you have to do is to head over to comictom101.com and subscribe to his mystery mail call. And in each mystery mail call box that goes out, there will be one random copy of the guide to smart comic collecting placed into that package. And he has picked up 3 covers. They're randomly going to be inserted: a trade dress, a black a virgin, and a white virgin. I do not know the dates for when you need to sign up, but I think that you have some time. But I would encourage you to head over to Comic Tom 101 and make that magic happen. Philtastic says he finished the Me You Love in the Dark. Whew, the Me You Love in the Dark, it turned creepy a couple of issues ago, so I don't know where it is at present. But I am looking forward to reading that myself. And I am way behind on comments, you guys. You have my my apologies for that. Kevin Pitt says he didn't make it to the LCS today, but he wants to shout out Liberty Comics. He said he stopped by another LCS on his way to work. So you're basically telling me that you cheated. You're basically telling me, sir, publicly that you cheated on your comic shop with Vault of Midnight, where you actually spent money. You spent money. Goodness gracious. No, all good stuff, Kevin. I definitely appreciate you shouting out the LCSs. We have to do what we can to support them because we are one community. So there you go. The Me You Love in the Dark was a powerful finale, says Vox. Vox, I need you to send me an email, brother. It has been, I want to say, a little bit more than a week since that other person was supposed to reach out to me to claim their prize, the $100 credit to Shortboxed. They have not claimed that credit. So, sir, it is yours. Send me an email to Regie@regiecollects.com with your screen name, your government name, and your mailing address. And I think I have all of that, but I need you to send it to me so that I have that for my records. There's a question here, Regie. I'm new to variants. Why are some more expensive than others, even with pre-order? So very, very quickly, and we do need to get to our first guest. So very, very quickly, it depends upon who is putting the variant out. Sometimes you have comic shops, you have YouTubers, you have artists that will put out variants for whatever book. There are minimums in place in which you have to buy. For Marvel and DC, I think it's 3,000. So 3,000 copies is the minimum that you have to purchase in order to actually get a variant. Then you have to actually pay the artist. So you have to pay the artist. You have to maybe buy the art from that artist in order to actually own that original art. You then have to pay for the copies and you have to pay for shipping. So that is part of the reason why variants are so expensive, because you literally, as a sponsor of a variant, are coming out of pocket a nice chunk of money. And I've spoken to some people that do high-end variants. They will come out of pocket for a variant, for a single issue, $20 to $25,000 for a single cover, divided by the number of copies. And then you have to throw out whatever number actually show up damaged. And I can tell you for a fact that a lot of variants will show up when you buy them damaged, and you cannot sell them damaged. At least I don't think that you should. So that's part of the reason why they're so expensive. The other reason is that let's say it's a ratio variant. You have to, a comic shop, for example, may have to buy, 10, 25, 50, 100, 500, or even 1,000 copies of a comic in order to get one copy of a ratio variant. And so you have to think, if I'm buying 1,000 copies of a comic, I'm not going to sell all 1,000, but I still have to pay for them. Where does that cost go? That cost gets shifted to that ratio variant, to that one person that actually buys that ratio variant. They have to absorb some of that cost. So that very, very quickly, some of the reasons why these variants, depending upon what they are, can be very expensive. All right, with that, we are going to make a hard turn. We are going to make a hard turn, and we are going to welcome onto the show my first guest. And as I alluded to a few moments ago, this first guest has, and I don't know if they know this, they actually influenced me several years ago to start my own YouTube channel. I sat in my kitchen having breakfast with this person fairly often. And as I watched this content, I came to the realization that this person was having a lot of fun and I wanted to have some fun too. And that is why in February of 2018, I actually started my own YouTube channel. And so with that very point made, I actually want to move this banner off because it'll be on his forehead. I want to welcome to the show Anthony, aka Reapertate 728. How are you, sir?
Very good, Reggie. Good to finally talk with you.
I want to welcome you officially to the show. And I don't know if you knew that you influenced me to start my channel. I kind of saved that little nugget for you to come on the show so I could with it. Thank you, man. I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you for your kind words. And no, I did not know that. So it's nice to hear. I really appreciate that, Reggie. Thank you.
For me, you and ETA Nick and Jim Mint and Luther Manning were the class, if you will, right before me, right? It was the class right before myself and Comic Tom and Bueller, all guys that I hate. You were right before, and I think, and I don't know if they watched you as well, but I certainly did. I would literally have breakfast in the morning, oatmeal and eggs every day, and I would watch you on the computer. And again, I want to thank you for putting out content and giving me the confidence and encouragement silently to actually do it myself. So again, I just say thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you, Reggie. I mean, that's one hell of a comment. And you've done so well on YouTube and I'm really happy for you. And you have a really good channel. So any compliment from you is just wonderful. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
No, it is my pleasure. And I want to thank you for accepting my invitation, right? I sent I was sitting there one morning and I was like, man, I want to figure out who to bring on the show. And one of your videos was up on screen. I was like, well, why not? Let me reach out to him, and the video that I actually watched a couple back to back that day as I reached out to you. And it was those videos that I want to spend a couple of minutes actually talking about over the course of the time that we have together. And in one of those videos, you were actually talking about Grail comics and those comments that you made. And in the first part of that video is where I really want to focus. And we're going to talk about the rest of the video, but it's really in those first few minutes where you were kind of setting up what it is that you wanted to talk about. And in those first few minutes, one of the things that you commented on is the fact that people have different definitions, if you will, for Grail. And you highlighted that technically, historically, there is only one holy Grail. And I have the quote of it here. It says that the term Holy Grail is often used to denote an elusive object or goal that is sought after for its great significance. And I want to be clear here that the conversation we are about to have is not about telling people that they're right or wrong or that they're doing something incorrectly. I am honestly just trying to seek to understand your mindset, right? So with that whole build up, how do you define Grail? What does that mean to you?
Well, when it comes to Grail in our hobby, I've always thought of a Grail as something that, as a collector, you would always want something that's out there, but possibly out of reach. So you constantly go on this journey to hopefully maybe one day get this Grail. And sometimes people are able to do it and sometimes people are not. For me, originally, many years ago, when I said what my holy grail was, and this is probably going to sound a little, what? Doesn't really make too much sense. My holy grail was Detective Comics 140,
Mm.
the first appearance of the Riddler.
Hmm.
You know, when I got back into the hobby after being out for so long and I went into Batman, I was like, wow, you know, collecting Batman, this is something that I thought I never would be able to do because the golden age and they're so expensive and they're hard to find and all these different things. But what better superhero to get? I mean, obviously Spider-Man's great, but for me, Batman would have been wonderful.
Yeah.
And I knew I would never get Batman. That wasn't even something that I would be on the trip, on the journey to get for that to be considered Holy Grail. I was trying to be realistic, but I was like, wow, the Riddler's my favorite villain. And I know a lot of people like the Joker, rightfully so. But I would love to have that 140. As a kid, I remember reading about he made his first appearance in 140. I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be so great to get that? So when I came back to the hobby, that became my holy grail. And I was able to get it. And I was happy I did.
So what was it about? I guess you kind of articulated that is this idea that you had in your mind as a kid that now as an adult you're like, hey, this maybe isn't beyond my reach because I have a job and I have money and I have means, right?
Yeah.
But once you attained, that comic, did your desires then shift to something else, right? Or was it like this Riddler, this is it, right? Or did your appetite grow or shift to a different type of book?
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought that my appetite would be, a little bit settled. I'd be a little full, but it
No.
wasn't. It wasn't for all the things you just said. You have money, you have a job. It wasn't so like, well, if I already got to this part of the mountain, why can't I go a little higher? And several people helped me, and I see in the background with you too, the Amazing Fantasy. I was like, well, maybe I should shift to Amazing Fantasy, and that's when I also mentioned the video Grails, plural. I'm like, well, historically there's only one, but now everyone's like, oh, this is a Grail of mine, hinting that there are multiple Grails. So I was like, you know what? I'll play along too because I probably belong to that group now.
Yeah.
But it originally started out as something else. But you're right. Like you said, you start to look toward other things like, well, if I got this, why can't maybe I do that? You're always pushing yourself. And I think that's even in life outside hobbies. You try to push yourself to become something greater, to achieve that next goal, whatever it may be, whether it's a job, whether it's staying in shape, whatever it is.
I call them BHAG goals. Right? So big, hairy, audacious goal, right? And it's the same thing as a Grail to some degree or another, right? It is something that is a little bit beyond maybe your comfort zone or maybe beyond your perceptions of what you think is possible, but it is in that aspiration that you actually grow. You grow as a person, you grow as a collector, you grow as a whatever it is that you're going after. And so as I hear you talk about this, what I hear is that it's actually okay to have a Grail that is a big Grail. And once you attain it, to then shift your focus just a little bit to then maybe not something always more expensive, but it's maybe something that for some reason or another is maybe beyond your reach. Maybe it's not just more expensive. Maybe it's hard to find, or maybe it's more meaningful to you. Would you agree with that type of shift? Would you adjust anything in that I just said a few moments ago?
No, because I think you said it perfectly. And that's exactly what I went through. After the Riddler, I was like, well, maybe I'll try to get Amazing Fantasy. I'm like, well, what about the Crypt Keeper? That's really hard to get. You just kept finding other things. And yeah, it's true. It may not always be the next super expensive book, but it might be something that's hard to get, or something that you never really thought you might get, but then you started to appreciate more. It's really, it changes. So depending on the person.
I think that was actually a really good point because, I don't know about you, and I do want to know about you. So this is a setup for a question. I found that my tastes have continued to grow as I've read more comics, as I've exposed myself to different publishers, different genres. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's an interesting book. Like the Flash book that I just spoke about. Growing up as a kid, I never read Flash. I never read Flash at all, right? I was a Marvel guy. But now I find myself, partly because of the channel, partly because maybe of my age, partly because of the influence from people out there watching this right now, I find myself reading more DC books. And I occasionally read some Golden Age books, right? Have you found that you have, you know, continued to grow as a collector as you've exposed yourself to different things? Because I'll tell you, the story you told around the Crypt Keeper book, I thought was really wonderful. I thought it was wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. I definitely think as you expose yourself to more options that are out there, and when we stick with our hobby, different types of things like Golden Age, Silver Age, DC, Marvel, like even with me, like what you were saying about the Flash, I think you outlined it very well. But like with me, I was like, well, I don't really go into pre-code horror other than EC. But then I'm like starting to look at some of this other stuff, like, oh, well, maybe there is another world out there within a world that I was already in.
Yep.
And even though it may seem familiar, it's not.
Yep.
And it's exciting. And it only strengthens strengthens the hobby for you, keeps it alive.
Yep. Which is the second thing. That's the second thing we're going to talk about, because this is going to bridge somewhere. But in that video, you actually highlighted a couple of books that maybe not everyone considers a grail, right? Yeah. And I want to talk about the grail term and whether it is truly overused or not. But in the video that I'm specifically talking about that is linked in the description, you spoke about Crime Patrol 15, which is the first Crypt Keeper. Yes. You spoke about Hulk 181. And what's funny is you were like 180, 181, who cares, or something like that. I just literally did a video on that. So I'm like, hey, high five. And then Amazing Fantasy 15. Those were basically the three books that you highlighted in there. And you told wonderful stories about each one of the books. It wasn't just look at this expensive book. It was like, here's a book, but let me tell you why this book is significant to comics, to people, and also to me. And I thought that was really wonderfully done, because it wasn't just, hey, look at my expensive stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to me about like your mindset with starting this series of videos, because I think you're going to do a series of them in which you show Grail comics. What was your mindset for why you decided to do this, besides the fact that you like Grails? Because you stated that in the video as well.
I've always felt that a lot of us who are collectors, we have some sort of emotional attachment to characters, to books. And yeah, there are people that are more into the investment part, and that's fine too. But this series is mainly to go over some of the books that happen to be Grail-ish books, but also talk about why they're meaningful beyond the value of it. Like with the Amazing Fantasy, you could say, oh, well, this is a very expensive Silver Age book. First Appearance of Spider-Man, it's a great book. Everyone could agree. But why is Spider-Man important to you? That's what the purpose I decided to go with the Crypt Keeper. Because a lot of people, at least I've noticed, I could be wrong, don't really go for the EC books. Yeah. And I have a whole reason why, but save that for another time. But I wanted to introduce people why not only you could understand that the Crypt Keeper is an important character in comics, but to really understand the significance and why he's important to some of us. And like I said, it was because of him I got into comics, you know?
There you go.
And it's not just like, oh, it's a hard book to get. It's beyond that. And that's where I wanted to go with this series, showing off Grailish books, but talk about the meaning behind them too. We already know the financial meaning behind them.
Yeah, people can look the values up, right? If that's what they want to do. I enjoyed the stories, and I have no clue what Crime Patrol 15 costs. No clue at all. But I remember watching Tales from the Crypt, and I thought that show was fantastic. That is what I remember. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know he had a first appearance in that book. So again, another wonderful example of how not just showing the books, but telling the story and the rationale allows us to connect with what it is that people are actually saying. So again, I think that's wonderful. One of the things that you mentioned, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe that you said that the term Grail is overused. Can you talk with me a little bit about why you feel that way, and put a little texture as to like why that's relevant?
Yeah, I do think that Grail, the word Grail, is overused, and I'm going to be honest, I overuse it too. I'm not sitting. I don't want to sit back and say all of you are using it, overusing it. I'm throwing myself in that pool too.
Yep.
I think I see a lot of posts on Instagram, Facebook that talk about, oh, these are my Grails and all that stuff, and sometimes I think, well, what's the most important one for you?
Mm.
Wouldn't that be the Holy Grail? Wouldn't that be the one for you? And when I see Grails used over and over again, I still sometimes think it maybe lose a little bit of meaning. That's just
Mm.
me. Other people, your viewers, you, everybody else may say, no, I don't think so. That's fine. But sometimes I'm afraid that if I overuse it, and like I said, maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite, so I do overuse it sometimes. I'm afraid it's going to lose a little bit of meaning. And I don't want it to lose meaning. When
There
you
you
say
go.
you have a Holy Grail in a collectible, comic, video game, whatever it is, this is, whoa, why is this the Holy Grail?
Yep.
Instead of it being, well, these are all my Grails. Well, okay.
There's like a whole shelf of them. So for those people that are coming in late, I am sitting down talking with Anthony Reapertate, one of the guys that influenced me to actually start my own YouTube channel several years ago. This is the first time literally that he and I are ever having a real conversation, and I am thoroughly enjoying this conversation. And as a reminder,
Likewise.
this will be rebroadcast on the podcast, which is available on your favorite listening platform. Just search for Regie Collects and you can actually find it. So my next question for you, Anthony, is instead of using the word Grail to convey importance of something, is it best to use key instead of Grail? So there's one Holy Grail, then there's keys. But my follow-up question is, do you think that we overuse the word key as well?
I think keys would be good. And no, I don't think we overuse keys.
Okay.
At least I don't think, I don't think so. I think we as collectors, we know there are multiple keys out there. There are multiple Batman keys, Flash keys, Golden Age keys, and so forth. So I think it's more commonly used. I think. I could be wrong. A lot of people may say, well, no, I think Grails are overly used. That could be too. But I think keys would be is a good substitute, and maybe I should start training myself to use that more often. Instead, I should change the series to keys.
Keys and Grails.
Keys or Grails? You decide.
You know,
Um,
at the end of the day, like, I don't know what the truth is, right? I mean, and I've spoken about this before. For me, it's not about, and I think you would probably agree with this, it's not you're right or you're wrong or this person is more correct than other people. It's more about, at the end of the day, we all love the same stuff.
yeah.
Right. We love colorful pieces of paper, right? Wrapped in plastic of some sort. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. But I like to understand another collector's mindset, not to compare myself to them, but by having these types of conversations, it also helps me to kind of sort out, well, what do I believe? And what do I really think? And do I think the same thing? Yes or no? So that's part of the reason why I'm kind of asking these questions. But as I jumped in there, I kind of interrupted you. So go ahead and finish your thought around
Oh, no.
keys versus Grails and all of that stuff.
No. I think I was pretty much done with it. I think keys might be a better term to use, but it's like what you were saying. Listen, whatever you use, whether you would like to use the word keys, Grails, that's up to you. I mean, I've talked a lot about whenever I talk about Spider-Man, and I say I really don't like John Romita, which is like to a lot of people. Wow, how could you not like John Romita? For those of you that like him, I understand why you like him. I could see it. So when taking that and moving it toward the Grails keys conversation, hey, whatever floats your boat.
Yep.
I may feel a certain way, but that doesn't mean I don't see it your way, or doesn't mean that I don't want to try to understand to see things your way. I'm cool with it. One of the things I dislike, and I'll end this part of the conversation.
Yeah, go for it, brother.
One of the things I really dislike is, when people are very elitist.
Mm.
And to have that, like, oh, this is what the true meaning of this is, maybe so for you. Everyone develops their own way, develops their own path, their own way of thinking. And I think it's always good just to accept people where they're at, and if they like to call them Grails, or they like to call them keys, or they like John Romita over Steve Ditko, it's okay. It's fine. You may not agree, but it's okay. We could all have friendly debate in this hobby, because that's what this hobby is supposed to be. It's supposed to be about fun and all those things.
What's funny is that anyone that is listening to this right now could hear these same words coming out of my mouth. That's what's funny. Like they get like I literally say this same stuff. And I guess now I understand why I gravitated towards your channel because I remember in those early days of when I came into the hobby in 2017, the beginning of 2018, where those elitists would make me feel stupid if I didn't know something. That if I did something different than them, then I was the dumb person that did not know anything, and they were the expert upon high, showering me with their knowledge, and I should be thankful for that.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, as I listen to you, I am not at all surprised by the fact that I watched your content the way that I did, because you're like, hey, do what you do. Whatever it is that you do that makes you happy, that works for you, do that thing. I'm going to do something else. And that's actually okay. Literally, this is the stuff that I talk about. But let me pause, because I see you nodding your head. So I want to pause to allow you to go ahead and jump in there.
No, I agree. I think that, hey, you bring your own perspective. I think it only helps the hobby. You don't want the hobby just to be just one straight path, one view. When I, like I said, I don't want to dwell too long on this. When I started coming back, I might have had a bit of an attitude like, well, why would people buy variants? Mm-hmm. That's the old me. And over the years, I even made a video years ago about variants. But over the years, I think I've tried to open my mind, and I became educated a little bit more on variants. Now, I personally don't collect them. I still don't collect them. But I'm starting to realize that, maybe I should have been. Maybe I should have been a little more open. Maybe I was being too much of an elitist. So I changed up a bit. And I think it's just good to have an open mind. Sometimes we struggle with it, but it doesn't mean you can't continue to try. And that's where I feel like I've come.
Because I think that you maybe you shouldn't change who you are at your core, right? Your core beliefs, your core, whatever it is that drives you. But there has to be, I think, a layer of flexibility in which you are able to change and to shift with the environment, versus being so rigid in your thinking and your beliefs that you can't get along with people. Like, who wants to be around a person that is like, dumping on them every chance that they get, but at this point, I do want to transition a little bit, because in another one of your videos, you actually released one where you talked about if comic collecting was still fun to you. And you answered the question, but I want to pause, and I want to ask you very, very directly. What is it that allows this hobby to still be something that is enjoyable to you after all of these years that you've been collecting?
Speaking for myself, not anybody else. It all boils down to getting the things that I really, really enjoy. And it's stuff like this. I always get these. I try to get them as much as I can. And that brings the joy back to me. There are times when I sit back and say, this isn't even fun anymore, because I think we all get a little frustrated with the recent prices. And, hey, it is what it is. But if we still have our own niche in this hobby, like you like collecting DC or Marvel or whatever, or you like collecting pre-code, it's still fun. That's what I've come to realize, as I'm searching myself, hey, is this really worth continuing and all that stuff? Things are so out of range. One of my goals is to eventually get Amazing Spider-Man 1. Now it's a pretty expensive book, but where there's a will, there's a way.
There you go. To that point, though, what do you think the difference is between those people that have a grail or a key that they want and are able to get it, and those that don't? Right? Because I wanted to ask you this question earlier and I kind of got off track, but you just brought me back. What's the difference between those that are able to get that book that they have their eyes set on, and those that fall a little short?
I think it's different from person to person, Reggie. I think if let's say if I got the Detective 140 and I said to myself, I reached my grail, this is it. That's one way I could have went, or one way another person could have went, or continue to go on another path. Like, oh, well, maybe I could climb this mountain, that mountain. So I think it's a little different. If you get it, some people may say, hey, I'm done, or take a break, or maybe they might say, what's the next mountain I could climb?
Yeah.
For the people that don't wind up getting it, they could just shrug their shoulders. I know Luther Manning, there's some books that he wants to get, but he takes a step back and he's still very much in the hobby.
Yes.
Very much in the hobby. And then I think there are also people that don't get it. They just may say, screw this hobby.
Yeah.
Forget it. There are people that just say, forget it. Maybe I'm in the wrong hobby and all that stuff. So it could go in a bunch of different ways. I mean, I'm still in it. You're still in it. So many others are still in it. So we keep it alive. And even though we may have times where we're like, oh, geez, this is like crazy.
This sucks.
we still find ways to get into it because I think we have a real love for collecting.
Yep.
Whatever it is.
I don't disagree. And I can tell you, and you probably have seen the same because you've been doing this a lot longer than me, but I've seen a lot of people come into the hobby and I've seen some people leave, and I've seen some people leave and come back. And they're like, hey, I've been gone for a while. And I'm like, hey, I'm still here doing what I do. Right. I mean, but they'll go away for 6 months. I mean, even a year, I've seen people come back and I'm still here just kind of chugging along, doing what I do. And to your point, I even have my ebbs and flows when it comes to YouTube content and also to the hobby. Sometimes I take a step back and I don't buy anything for a while, either because I'm saving up or because I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next, or because I just need a recharge. And I think that that's actually okay, both for content and also for the hobby as well. And I'm curious whether you have those similar types of ebbs and flows. Do you take the break? Do you take the pause? Do you then course correct again in an attempt to keep your energy and enthusiasm going?
Absolutely. I have an experience of that. When I first came back to the hobby within the first year and a half, I was starting to say, geez, because I was getting a lot back then. And I was like, wow, I think I really need to take a step back. And some, like you were saying, some might interpret that as like, well, maybe you're done. Maybe you burned out. Not necessarily. I just said, no, I just need to take a step back and try to figure out, okay, what is it that I really want next? Because I want to make sure that when I buy it, I feel good about it, instead of like, well, here's just another book. And I think that's a bad place to be as a collector, or at least according to me. So that's what I did. I took a few months off and I was able to figure out exactly what I wanted. I said, oh, I really want a Luke Cage 1 and I want a Marvel Spotlight 5 and all that stuff. Well, back when you could get those books. And when I got them, I was like, this is cool.
Yep.
This is cool. But every now and then, like you said, you do need to take a step back, and you may need to take a step back. And when you come back, fully charged.
There you go. Because like you, man, that first year I was back, I was on a rip.
Yeah.
I was buying everything. Like if I saw it, I bought it.
Yeah.
But after a while, you're like, this is not good, and I'm buying books to create YouTube content. I'm like, that's also not good. Like that's actually when I was like, I need to come up with a way to create content where I don't have to spend money. And that's when I started looking for other type of content that I could create that was beneficial and entertaining, but did not require me to actually go to the eBay to spend some cash, and I'm very thankful that I had that epiphany. And I think many of us that come back to the hobby or are in the hobby now, I think a lot of us have those epiphanies that you can't buy everything and not everything that you buy will make you happy. And you can't go 100 miles an hour every day, all day. You have to sometimes take these pauses to evaluate and assess. And before I let you comment there, for those folks that are joining late, I am talking to Anthony Reapertate, one of the guys that influenced me to actually start my YouTube channel. We are having a wonderful discussion, and I want to pause here and get some parting thoughts from you as we get ready to wrap up here. Go ahead.
Well, no, I think letting people out there who are just buying up everything and sometimes maybe losing a little bit of feeling for what they're buying. I think that what you said a few moments ago, the best advice is, hey, maybe you just need to take a step back. Don't necessarily buy for the sake of buying. Maybe you need to get back in touch with why you started collecting in the beginning, to begin with. Maybe it's because you had a love for this character, that character. Try to take a step back and use your energy well. And when you come back, maybe the things would be a little more meaningful for you if they started to lose meaning. I mean, I think that's excellent advice for anyone who has doubt.
Yeah.
you
And I
know.
think some of this stuff can be applicable to other aspects of life, to be honest with you. But
Absolutely.
I only talk about comics. So what do I know? But Anthony, as I wrap up here, brother, I did put 2 links to the 2 videos that we've spoken about in the description of this video. But with that said, if people want to watch your content and or get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to actually do that?
They could find me on YouTube at, Reapertate with the links that you just sent, or you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Reapertate 728. You can find me there if you want to check out what I put up or send me a message, whatever. I always welcome questions. I have another questions video coming out soon, but if you ever want to ask me a question, I'll gladly answer it or about whatever.
So,
And
I cut you off. My apology.
no, go right ahead.
So 2 last questions.
Yeah.
The name Reapertate, what is the origin of that?
Well, Reapertate, I've always had a fascination with the Grim Reaper.
Mm.
And one of my favorite video games was Castlevania. And one of the characters was the Grim Reaper. That took me 20 years to beat that bastard. So when I finally figured it out, so I was always fascinated with the Grim Reaper and that game. So when I created my Xbox handle, because I had to create one when I first got the Xbox 360, I was like, what? I said, well, what kind of name would I want to give myself? I was like, well, let's go with Reaper. And the Tate came in. I forget how Tate came in, but it was something randomly I saw. And I just put my birth date at the end of it. Boom, Reaper Tate.
There
I know
go.
it's a very weird name. It would be better if it was just Reaper 728. That would make sense. But
I always wondered about the Tate part. And I'm like, what is the Tate? So I could not pass up this opportunity to ask that question. And then my last question as we wrap up here is that you've done, I think, 1 installment of your Grail books, and you highlighted 3 books in that first video. When is the next installment dropping?
Probably within the next couple of weeks. It's already filmed. I believe Giant Size X-Men #1 is going to be in it, and others similar to that. But the next one will be dropping very soon.
There we go.
And then the following one another month later.
There we go. Brother, I want to thank you for answering the call when the DM was sent. It has been a pleasure to connect with you, and I am very thankful for your channel and for the influence that you've had, not just on me, but I'm confident other people out there that were watching your videos back in the day and to this day. So again, I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Regie. It was a pleasure speaking with you. It was a pleasure being on your show. Thank you so much. It really meant a lot to me when you reached out to me. I was like, wow, why does he want me on his show? What the hell am I going to do there?
I think this is where we hug now, but we're not going to do that.
Nah, let's keep at least 6 feet apart. All right.
It's down to 3 feet now. It's down to 3 feet.
Oh, that's right. That came out a day or two ago.
I think so. All right, brother. It has been a pleasure. Take care.
Take care, Regie.
Oh, I always cut people off right at the end. All right. So I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. As I mentioned several times over the course of that, I have watched this guy's content for years, and I sent him a message and I was like, let's see if he responds to me. And he did. And we actually scheduled it. I want to say, a couple of weeks ago for this week because of the holidays and stuff like that. But I am very thankful that Anthony was able to make a little bit of time and join me on the show. And before we invite my next guest on, I actually want to do a quick shout out for one of the channel's sponsors. Let me see if I can find the message. It is right here. My folks over at My Slabs are going to be giving away a copy of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 300. It is a 9.0, and this is a post that is actually on the Instagram machine. To get into this drawing, all you have to do is to head over to Instagram, follow MySlabs_comics, and then like and share this post. And they are randomly, I believe, going to be selecting a winner and announcing that winner on New Year's Eve. So again, a great supporter of the channel, My Slabs, and here is your opportunity to win some free stuff. So I encourage you, if you are on the Instagram machine, to head over and to give them a follow and to do all of the stuff that I just mentioned a few moments ago. So, given that this is I do believe the last Comics Today show of the year, I wanted to have on the show the person that has appeared the most times over the course of this year, besides myself. And that, of course, is this guy right here. Doug, it is good to see you, brother.
Hey, Reggie, great to see you.
The question is, have you lost count of how many times you've been on my show? Do you have any clue? Because I think you've run out of holes on your 3-hole punch there thing.
Long time ago. Long time ago.
Is it still a card? Or is it just like pieces of a card at this point?
Yeah, I once I filled it and got that awesome pillowcase from Master Blaster. I did I stopped keeping track of Bentley too. So
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Bentley is a TikTok star, man. I want to be like him when I grow up. I mean, everybody gets famous except for me. I don't understand it. But shout out to Bentley. But I wanted to have you on, brother, to talk for a few minutes about this latest gimmick from the guys over at Bad Idea. I mean, it just gets, is badder a word? I don't think badder is a word, but it just gets badder and badder. So for those folks that don't know, the folks over at Bad Idea have released an invisible comic called Conceptual Funnies issue #1. And Doug, I am curious. It's a graded comic, by the way.
yeah.
When you first heard about this, I am curious, as a satirical guy, what was your thought about this graded invisible comic from Bad Idea?
I think the satire aspect probably does give me a little different perspective, because as we've talked about in the past, I try not to go with my gut reaction, because my gut reaction was kind of like, what the hell is this? I don't know if I can say that.
No, you can say it.
But I do feel like I do not know Dinesh, the owner. He seems like an interesting guy. I've seen a couple interviews with him, but I don't know him. But he strikes me almost in the way that, like, Andy Kaufman, who was a comedian that, if people aren't familiar with, you can go on YouTube and Google his work. In the 70s and early 80s, he's famous for being on Taxi, passed away from lung cancer at a young age of 35. But he was a comedian. He was viewed as a stand-up comedian, but in many ways he wasn't. He was more of a performance artist that liked, he was funny, but he went for a different sort of reaction. He wanted people to react more like, what is going on? Is this for real? Is this a put on? And that was kind of the vibe he was going for. And he is considered a genius for that, but isn't everybody's cup of tea. And I kind of feel like Bad Idea with things like this enters into that space of, are we doing it for a laugh for us because it's funny to us, or are we trying to elicit just another, headline grabbing, head scratching kind of a thing? So that's kind of my take on it.
And there's definitely that, right? I think to your comparison there are some people that appreciate the marketing aspect of what he is attempting to do, which is to cut through the clutter. And I say him, but it's him and his team. I'm guessing. I don't think he's coming up with all these ideas, but the team is cutting through the clutter. And there are some out there that are like, oh, I think that's silly, or I think that's cute, but I see it for what it is, which is maybe good marketing, maybe, I don't know. And then there's others out there that are like, this is nonsense. And I can tell you, I was driving back from soccer of taking my kids to soccer, and I was running around with them. I'm all sweaty, and somebody sending me a message, and the message was, "This is nonsense." That was essentially the gist of the message. And I was trying. I had scanned part of the article that had come out earlier in the day. I had scanned it as I was driving. I was not internalizing, and I was responding incorrectly to this person. But for those again that have not heard this thing, Bad Idea has essentially released an invisible comic, and it is a graded invisible comic. And I actually went to the CGC census because I wanted to look this up. And sure enough, this is actually on the CGC census. If I can find it, here it is. So it is Conceptual Funnies issue number 1, the first disappearance in comics. And you can see here it is called the Visible Edition. And they have essentially graded 34 copies of this comic, ranging from a perfect 10 all the way down to a poor, with the exception of the 1.8. And again, one of the people that I spoke with about this felt like it was something that CGC should not have done, that they should not have been involved with something like this. But again, Doug, I'm curious what your take might be on this.
Well, I know CGC is already taking criticism for it. When I was reading the articles about it, there's a lot on the CBCS forum about it. I'll tell you that. I view it like they're participating in something that's, it's obviously a stunt. The timing, I know they're timing it with the end of Bad Idea. It seems more like a April Fool's kind of a prank or a stunt. I'm not going to fault anybody for having fun and doing something, to support someone in the field who's having some fun. And if you go on Bad Idea's Instagram page, you can tell they're really into the meta, making fun of the fact that we're doing beyond silly things for the sake of advertising. We are poking fun at the fact that we are going to the extreme when it comes to collectibles. Now, in looking at different perspectives, I could see how for some fans, this is a blast. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, kind of like if you're interested in treasure hunting and things like that, there are books or, the murder mysteries you can order online. I could see how following this could be a lot of fun, which is great. On the flip side, I could see that if you're a collector who is really interested in trying to get their books and participate, it could be frustrating, and tough, and might eventually make you feel like you're having some of your time wasted. So I again, I know what they're trying to do. It doesn't mean that's always going to impact everybody the way they want it to.
Agreed. And I don't, this guy, Dinesh, I don't know him either. But it appears to me that he is definitely, and again, the team is trying to have some fun, and it's not always going to be everyone's cup of tea. Are they turning off more people than they are turning into fans? I honestly don't know. What does the future hold for Bad Idea? I don't know. I mean, this guy's been in the industry for a very long time, because wasn't he a founder of Valiant? He's done this for a very long time. I mean, if you look at the photo that is actually shared, he is sitting there with a copy of Captain America issue number 1, a 7.5, I think, purple label. And the invisible comic is there. I mean, he has articles being written by the founder of Bleeding Cool. He has CGC involved in this gimmick. I mean, the guy clearly has some influence and maybe on a course to do something that is different, that is unique, that is maybe fun. I don't know. And I mean, I kind of sort of enjoy it, because it's interesting. It's not just, hey, here's another press release talking about some stuff that I did. Like they're doing some different stuff. And I don't know, again, whether it's good or bad, but it is different. It is different. I still don't know what those buttons are for. Like
they, it's interesting because I think some of them were redeemed for rocks, literally rocks.
I think I did hear that.
There was something in the Bleeding Cool article that almost was like a hint that they might actually do a comic, and you might be able to trade in the invisible comic down the road for the real thing. I'm not sure. It was cryptic, but it does make me wonder, because we've had conversations like, Bad Idea is ending as we know it. Are they going to rebrand, turn into something new? And might this be like a kickoff for something else? It might be, it might not be. They have had odd promotions, like if you send in stickers, you get things, but then they had you can buy your stickers back from them.
I did see some
kind of a thing on Black Friday, but they almost were like playing around like, well, you're not going to get anything for it. Just pay us $10 for your sticker back. But who knows? You might get something, but you didn't hear it from us. It was oddly worded. Again, I think they're having fun, and I think, like Kaufman, they're looking to get a reaction, and they're looking to entertain themselves. I'm certain it would be a blast to work in that marketing room. Could
you imagine what those team meetings are like?
Oh my gosh, I can't.
There has to be a diagram of we're going to go here, but we're really going here. But truthfully, we're going over. It has to be chaos over there.
And they might not know where they're going. It might be like, what's fun today? Let's do that.
Yeah,
so
that could be it. And so again, for those folks that are coming in a little late, we are talking about the invisible comic that has been graded by CGC, released from the folks over at Bad Idea. You can actually see here on screen that there is something in there, and I think it's like folded plastic held in place with like staples, and it is graded. It is graded all the way from a 10 all the way down to what did I say, a 0.5 or something like that. 0.5 with them skipping over a 1.8. I don't know if there's any significance to that. Again, I think these guys are having some fun. It'll be interesting to see what their next bad idea happens to be, whether it's better than this bad idea or it's a worser bad idea than the current bad idea that they're currently rolling out from Bad Idea. Did anybody follow that? I don't know. Doug, before I let you go, I wanted to take this opportunity. I'm laughing at one of the comments. I want to take this opportunity to give folks a little bit of heads up on what we've been doing with the Guide to Smart Comic Collecting. We pulled the trigger on the final print run for the second print of the guide. Do you remember what the number was? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think
I do. And it's very low. It's a lot lower than the first print run. So if anybody bought it for the sake of hanging on to an extra copy, even though the intent is for people to read it, if like the overall print run,
overall number, what's the overall number?
Is it 420?
It is. It is 420. It is 420. You get a no prize. But so Doug and I are basically going to give you guys a quick update as to what is going on with the second print of the guide. And to Doug's point, we are pulling the trigger on 420 copies of the guide. I have not done the math to figure out how many of those are actually sold. I will tell you that I think it's like over 200 have been sold. It's actually close to 300.
Yeah, it's the majority
of the numbers. Do you remember? The number?
I think with the pre-orders and then some of the, the creator copies, I would guess that the unaccounted for books are well under 100, under 100 copies. We wanted to keep it tight.
That's good math. I think you're right about that, because part of it again is we don't want to print a bunch of stuff because we have to pay for it and then those things not sell. So we're trying to keep a close handle on what's been ordered and what is being printed. And so let me give you the breakdown. 420 total copies of the second print of the guide will be produced. When it comes to cover A, which is the trade dress version, we are printing 285 of those. When it comes to the red version, we are doing 95, and the purple is 40. So that is the breakdown. 420 copies overall, 285 of cover A, red version 95, purple is 40. And for the sake of completeness, the original print, the first print, was around 3,500 copies. That is the number that we have repeated publicly. So I wanted to make sure that I'm consistent in that verbalization. So Doug, any thoughts around the prints or any of that other kind of stuff that you want to convey to people? And again, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I think you can handle it.
No, I think for those who didn't get the first print, and pre-ordered, I'm really glad they are going to get this. I think they'll enjoy it. There's a lot of great information. For those who did get the first print and just wanted to support the project or get the another cover, which was done by a couple of great artists, I think that they'll be very pleased also because of the bonus chapter that was content submitted by several other members of the community. It's really good bonus content. So I think there's something for everybody in it, and I think everybody's getting a kick out of the 420 number in the chat.
I was not going to touch it, but there's a reason why.
I don't know why, but yeah.
I may have paused when I said 420. So for those folks that are watching right now, this is actually the red cover. Let me see if I can pull up the purple version. That is not the right screen. They have changed my interface here, and I sometimes hit the wrong button. So this is the purple version, and this is the one where we have 40 copies of that. I do not have the trade dress version teed up just yet, but what we'll be doing is randomly inserting one of the 3 covers into the packages that are going to be going out. So that's how we're going to do it. You will not be able to buy the individual cover. You place a pre-book on regiecollects.com and you will randomly get something. And I've given you what those numbers are. So a healthy number, I should say, a healthy number of these are going to already go to Comic Tom, because as part of Comic Tom's purchase of the first print, we guaranteed him a set of the second print, because that's like the right thing to do. That is what you do. So a lot of not a lot, but a handful of these are going to be going to him. Others, again, will be put into the orders that go out. And I personally think that there's an ample amount, if you will, to actually go in circulation. So there you go. Doug, as we get ready to wrap up here, brother, any parting thoughts that you want to make before I let you go?
No, it's just been a really fun year collaborating with you, from the start of you asking me to pop on as a guest, to the blogs, to the book, and everything in between. I've really enjoyed it and looking forward to a wonderful 2022.
It is honestly, it has been an amazing year, man. It really has been. If you think about what we, and I use that term in the sense of all of the people that are involved with this channel, all of the people that have been guests on this channel, we have done a lot. And we have a lot, I think, to be proud of. And in each and every one of you, if you have been a guest once or several times, if you are in the chat, if you are a blue wrench, if you are a person that sent me a note about a news event, all of you have contributed to what this channel is about. And I'm very thankful for that. And I am honestly excited about what the future holds. And I will tell you for a fact that this guy that's on screen right now, man, whew, he is working on some stuff that we cannot wait to tell you. So, Doug, I want to thank you, brother, and I'm going to let you go. But before I do, where can people get a hold of you on the social media?
Best place is through Instagram at Doug.Bratton, BRATTON.9, the number 9. And blog post today on regiecollects.com. If for people who haven't read it yet, I do mention I'm not going to be contributing on a weekly basis this coming year. I will still be contributing, but that's only because of some other cool stuff in the works that hopefully we'll be able to share a couple of months down the road.
Brother, I've already started talking to some people about some of that stuff behind the scenes, and I can tell you for a fact that, yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right. With that
Yes,
said,
it
I'm going to
is.
let you go, brother.
Take care.
Ooh, I did not cut him off that time. All right. So thank you, Phil. I definitely appreciate it. I have such a wonderful time doing these live shows because it gives me an opportunity to interact with some awesome people. I've had an opportunity to actually meet Doug face to face, but prior to that, I had never met Doug face to face, but we connected. And being able to talk to Anthony earlier today was a real treat. It's a great way to, I think, to wrap up at least this live stream, the last of the year. And I'm looking forward to what the new year will bring. I will tell you that I am introducing a couple of new elements into the videos. You guys probably have already started to see some slight evolution in a few things and in terms of what I say and how things look. Several people have already sent me a couple of messages as they've taken note of some of those things, and the evolution will continue. I will continue to evolve and hopefully get better and hopefully retain the interest of those people that have been with me since the kitchen and those that have been with me subsequently to the kitchen. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this up. Again, Richard, thank you very, very much for the super chat. Thank you for all the wonderful participation from everyone that's in the chat right now. And again, as a reminder, this is going to be available on your favorite podcasting platform. You can actually take some Regie on the go. And as somebody mentioned to me earlier, they actually listen to me while they do cardio. So I think that's a wonderful thing. All right. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.